Good morning. Thanks for taking the time today to join us in the webinar. We are going to share some updates for OpenEdge. And for that, we have Marie Candela, Principal Technical Product Manager for OpenEdge. As a Technical Product Manager, Marie is a member of the OpenEdge Product Management team, where she focuses on data management. Marie joined Progress in 2006 when she became the development manager for the OpenEdge database, a role she enjoyed for several years. Moving from development to release management to product management, Marie now gathers user requirements, defines features and capabilities, and drives their rollout and delivery in releases. With that, over to you, Marie.
Thank you, Kay. And I'm so excited to be here to give you an overview of the recently released OpenEdge 12.6. Here's a quick agenda of what we'll cover today. I'm going to start by looking at 12.6's position in the overall OpenEdge release model. And then we'll go into the OpenEdge 12.6 features, which will lead us to a new security product that's introduced in 12.6. And then we'll touch briefly on some of the companion releases for the OpenEdge Command Center and OpenEdge Pro2. And then to start wrapping things up, I'd like to visit with you, our customers, on how you can participate in our development activities. So let's move to how does OpenEdge 12.6 fit in? I'll take a step back here and review the OpenEdge release model. We've learned over the years that our customers vary in their desire and ability to take on new releases. For some of them, OpenEdge hasn't moved fast enough, and for others, the frequency of releases has been too quickly for them to be able to take on. So what we've learned is that we need to have flexibility across the releases just so that we can make things work for all types of our customers, which usually relies on the rate and effort of their new feature adoption, which drives their upgrade cadence. The long-term support model, or LTS, addresses the customer needs to stay on a longer version for a longer period of time. That model focuses on the long-term stability and minimizing costs. The LTS releases are supported for 5 years in an active state and 3 more years in a sunset state. For LTS, our current LTS retirements, OpenEdge 11.7 is slated for retirement in April 2025, and OpenEdge 12.2 is slated for retirement in October 2028. OpenEdge 12.2 is the most current innovation version that is available for long-term support. That means that it's a stable release that's eligible for bug fixes, including security, certifications on new versions of operating systems, but it will not receive additional enhancements or features. What we do is continue to build on the foundation as we work towards a future LTS version. OpenEdge 12.3 through 12.5 have provided innovation to customers who are interested in moving more quickly so that they can embrace solutions to their business problems. Each innovation release is production level quality, and we find that it's embraced by about 25% of our OpenEdge customers. As such, the new capabilities introduced in each of these innovation releases has been exercised in development, test, and production environments, with corresponding feedback to progress leading to bug correction and feature enhancement over time. These enhancements are typically in a usability or additional capabilities, etc. For our customers who prefer or require the stability offered in a long-term support version, this means that when Progress produces a future LTS release, many or most of the capabilities will already have been used in real-world situations. And so this is where we are with OpenEdge 12.6, it is another innovation release that is continuing to build towards the next LTS. As the next innovation version, it builds on all the previous innovation releases as we incrementally work towards the future LTS release. You will hear me say a couple of times in this presentation that an enhancement in 12.6 builds upon something that was done in 12.5. So my goals for this presentation, well, the simple one is to inform you on what's in 12.6. But if you're an operation that has the resources or pursues early adoption, I hope to interest you in picking up 12.6 to exercise the new features and give us feedback. If you're an operation that generally moves from long-term support to long-term support releases, I want to get you thinking about what functionality you want to use and start planning to get to the next LTS. Next, we'll start looking at the 12.6 features, but what I first want to go over is the strategic themes towards the next LTS. As we go through the features, keep in mind that this presentation is just an overview. So that means there's a couple caveats. The first is not every single feature is listed in here. We just don't have enough time for that. Nor is there in-depth coverage on any of them. What this presentation is for is just to give you ideas on what you want to know more about. Our strategic themes for the features in 12.3 through the next LTS are in support of these themes. However, what we've realized is that looking through the lens of any single one release, there may be more activity on one theme than the others. It's not necessarily that we have an intent with each innovation release to have it completely balanced. Our themes towards the next LTS are first, to deliver on the promise of the platform. Second, to harness the value of the cloud. And third, to enable you to do more with OpenEdge. Next, I'll move through the themes and the 12.6 features related to them. Delivering on the promise of the platform. The platform is OpenEdge, and the promise is the characteristics that are the benefits of using OpenEdge. In 12.6, we have several enhancements under this theme. One of the first ones that I want to present to you is a performance enhancement. It has to do with the tooling initialization in Progress Developer Studio. We have found with very large and complex workspaces that the tooling initialization can take a long time. So what we've done is divided it into two parts. The initial scan will store file-specific information and not include any of the interfile dependencies. We find that this information enables the developer to do the majority of their work. So they're able to get started as soon as the initial scan completes. The deep scan that immediately follows creates the interfile relationships. How do classes, procedures, include files, etc. relate? And these relationships are key to support the functionality of find references and intelligent compilation. If the developer is aware that in this session of using the Developer Studio, that they don't need to go into those deeper features, they can actually put the deep scan on pause to free up resources for the work that they're immediately doing. Next, as I want to move into the ability to identify memory leaks, this feeds into reliability. We've now added in the core library a leak check class. And what this does is it processes log files and will identify memory leaks, and it will also generate a report for you in JSON format so that you can continue to refer to it as you're working. The next item is some diagnostics for PAS-OE, PAS for OpenEdge. We have found that there's an issue in PAS-OE. ABL applications can execute C code from third-party libraries, and some of these libraries have chosen to block their signals, including fatal signals for the thread that they're operating in. What that does is it prevents the PAS-OE signal handler from handling them properly. Actually, the PAS agent just disappears without a trace. There's no messages, no call stack, nothing. And if it happens that one of those threads is in a critical section code for the database, it can corrupt and/or shut down the database, bringing your deployment down. So what we have done is added a parameter. It turns out that we have the ability as a caller of this C code to turn this off. So we've added a parameter to prevent the third party from blocking the fatal signals. This will greatly aid in diagnosis and debugging what's going on in the PAS-OE environment, and also avoid having unplanned shutdown of your deployment database. The next couple of features that I'm going to go over here all come from the database tooling area. And a key word for each of them is more. This first one is, well, the more is about reliability and keeping the database up, whether it be for planned or unplanned downtime. So these three items are things that you might need to use during a maintenance outage or an unexpected database down outage. The first item is that we have more database utility diagnostic tools that can be run concurrently on an offline database. Every once in a while, when a database has unexpectedly gone down, it cannot be brought up again to do diagnostics on. And so we have several tools that run specifically on the offline database. The challenge with these is that many of them had to be run standalone in the offline database. So we did an assessment of these tools and found that there were several that there was no reason for them to be run standalone. And so we have elevated on the order of 10 to 12 of them to be able to be run concurrently on that offline database. What that does is it changes your activity as you're scanning for problems that need to be repaired. Instead of being done now in a long sequence, we're able to do many of them concurrently, hopefully getting you back up in a shorter period of time. Another item is the delete record option on Index Fix. For those of you that generally the administrators that are using Index Fix all the time, this is option 6. Prior to 12.6, the delete record option could only delete records that had their full index entries. So if there was anything missing in those index entries, the delete record would refuse to proceed. And the administrator would have to do some other work manually to prepare it and then delete the record on their own. What this improvement has done is it has loosened up those constraints. So instead of the DBA having to do it manually, the software recognizes it, proceeds with the delete record, and it's all done in a single pass. Our third utility that we have enhanced, again, doing more, is binary dump. Binary dump is used to reduce scatter and fragmentation in your database and ultimately improve performance. The improvement that we have made to binary dump is to get more out of each execution of it. Prior to 12.6, if binary dump encountered corruption in the database, it would just stop at that point. And it wasn't always giving us helpful information for us to figure out what that point was and what we needed to either remove or repair. What we have done is made it much more helpful. So now that as it encounters corrupt records, it will log significantly more details so that you can find that location and go in and make changes. And the other thing we have added is its ability to recognize certain begin-end patterns in the record structures. So if it encounters some corruption after it has passed a begin and hasn't found the end, it will skip over the remainder and look for the next begin and then continue from that point. What we're trying to do with binary dump is get you as much data as possible out of that database in a single pass. Moving on to harness the value of cloud. What that means to us is unlocking the business benefits commonly expected from cloud adoption. What speaks to us in the database area for cloud is size. The ability to scale up or down the size of your databases, their replicas, etc. With increased size, it usually comes increased volume, more users, more transactions, and the need to be able to increase and decrease gracefully. I have 3 enhancements in 12.6, all for the database area for this theme. The first is a mass delete. Occasionally, administrators will need to purge out either old, obsolete data, maybe archived elsewhere. It's just not of interest anymore, and they want to reduce the footprint of their database with that data. So they do a mass delete. What happens is when you do that mass delete, it will leave behind several no longer used blocks in the index's binary tree. This could be, depending on the amount of your data and your indexes, this could be several thousand unused blocks. The reason that they are not desirable is because even though they're unused, they're still present in the B tree, and when scanning occurs, they still have to be processed. So what we have added is a new index compact option to scan the delete chain that these blocks are on. and it cleans out the unused blocks for unique indexes on the index's binary tree. The end result of this is that it improves query performance, it improves online transaction processing performance, and it speeds up certain index compact operations. Next, we'll revisit Index Fix. Index Fix is one of our most used database utilities, and it is used for routine database checks for proactive repair, in that if your database is up, your database is operating, but you want to build confidence that there's nothing hidden in there waiting to get you and take your database down. And then it is used when corruption is encountered and your database does come down and a repair is needed to return it to production. As tables and records grow larger and larger, the execution time for Index Fix increases. Therefore, we're always on the lookout for processing improvements that we can put in. In this case, we have found an overhead in the processing when scanning database records. And so what we have done is removed that overhead. This is apparent in Index Fix on type 2 tables and running options 1 and options 8. Note that option 8 is merely a consolidation of a couple of the earlier options. But we have had customers in the early release see significant processing improvement from using this. The next bullet is for Truncate Area Online. The Truncate Area Online enhancement in 12.6 continues to build on our ability to manage database storage without taking the database offline. Prior to this enhancement, you had to take the database offline to truncate an area. You would have to truncate the BI file, and you would have to disable after imaging. These disablements and truncating the BI file then means that you were going to have to recreate your replication targets once you brought the database back up. This becomes a very expensive operation just for database maintenance, so people would avoid doing it. It's been over the series of the last few innovation releases that we have building to this ability to truncate Area Online. In 12.4, we've made online table truncate. In 12.5, we truncated the log move. And in 12.6, we've been able to truncate the storage area. This is available on type 1 and type 2 areas. Okay, now we move forward to the next theme of do more with OpenEdge. This theme is typically where our new features live. We have one here with object-oriented ABL, in that it now supports sorted set collections. A sorted set is a collection of unique elements, that means there's no duplicates, that have a predefined order. Earlier implementations of collections consisted of using temp tables, the OpenEdge.core.collections package, or arrays, and each of these had limitations and inefficiencies. So this functionality also continues from 12.5, where we introduce list collections, where objects are accessed in sequential order. So broadening the support in 12.6 to sorted set, it is provided as a new built-in construct, sorted set, that can be used by any ABL application. Next, we're going to move to online event streaming, which is our integration with Kafka. Kafka enables OpenEdge applications to participate in an event-driven architecture to send and receive messages, either from within ABL applications or to be consumed by other Kafka applications. 12.6 provides the ability to set Kafka configuration properties on a per-topic basis, which greatly reduces application complexity, overhead, and memory usage. We also added in 12.6 a transactional producer, augmenting the basic producer that we had in 12.5. A transaction is a way to group messages so that all of the messages in the group remain invisible to consumers until all have been sent successfully and the transaction is completed. And then finally, under Do More with OpenEdge, in the database, while we have enhanced our support of large files in the database by making it now available on all types of database licensing. Prior to 12.6, it was only available in the enterprise licensing, which is also part of the advanced enterprise edition. Now it's available with the lower levels. You do not have to do anything to invoke it. It will be enabled upon database opened with 12.6 if you're using, for example, workgroup licensing. One of the reasons we put this in, we opened it up, is because large file support really was a characteristic of the operating system layer and not database functionality. It was something that we had to deal with on the operating systems. It's also pretty much old time now in this modern age. So what would happen is customers that are using an enterprise level database in their deployment, and they want to make a copy of that and make use of it in their development and QA environments. But their development and QA environments may be licensed at the work group level. If their database had gotten to the size where some of their data was in large files, they could no longer open that in their development or QA environments. So we've now removed that restriction and opened it up completely. You may have noticed that I haven't mentioned security, even though it was in one of the first themes. Security has become very pervasive in our work. It seems like software security vulnerabilities and associated hacker attacks have dominated the news over the past couple of years. What does Progress in OpenEdge do about security is that it's an ongoing activity for us in our development environment, and we scan, assess, and prioritize a backlog of security vulnerabilities. If you would like to obtain more information on what Progress is doing to manage reporting, management, and discussing and disclosing vulnerabilities, I give you this reference. It can be found on our website. Like Progress, customers are also executing scans. They have their own security, corporate security governance, and they execute their own tools, which may or may not be different than what Progress is using for scanning. Occasionally, a customer finds a vulnerability in their environment before Progress does, and they report it to us. And that's fine, because different tools have different strategies and different focus. So thank you if you're doing this, and please do keep doing so. Another activity that we've embraced for security at a corporate level is the OWASP SAM. OWASP stands for the Open Web Application Security Project, which is a nonprofit foundation that works to improve the security of software through community-led open source. And the SAM is a software insurance maturity model that is one of the projects that OWASP has taken up. The mission of the model is to provide an effective and measurable way for you to analyze and improve your secure development lifecycle. And then finally, what we're doing about security is we create new OpenEdge features to help you, our customers, maintain security and improve security in your environment. So next, we'll look at what are we doing for security in OpenEdge 12.6. As we identify the potential security vulnerabilities, we assess and prioritize them into a backlog. We were doing this also in 12.5. We've been doing it for quite some time. The vulnerabilities detected within OpenEdge development, as well as those that the customers report to us, are all put into the same prioritized backlog. This backlog generally results in code changes. Targeted code changes are made in the code that we wrote in OpenEdge. And then we also have third-party code in our product. And so for those, we have to go look and find what version of the third-party code has been updated to mitigate those vulnerabilities. And we will then upgrade what version of the third-party code we're using in our product. The customers, as I mentioned on the previous slide, the customers that are executing their own scans, which are reported by way of support cases, those come into development as bugs, and they do get factored into the same backlog that we're using for the above code changes. The OWASP activity, that being part of processes and practices, we incorporate that in. Some of it goes into our development tooling. It's not just activities that we're doing. This is implemented via our OKRs and our quarterly program increments. In OpenEdge 12.6, we have enhanced the transparent data encryption key score functionality to be able to integrate with a hardware security module, or HSM, which can provide a second means of authentication. An HSM is an enterprise-scale physical computing device that safeguards and manages digital keys. It performs encryption and decryption functions for digital signatures, and it provides strong authentication and other cryptographic functions. While the TDE key store that already existed prior to this integration is already separate from the database and uses strong encryption, some enterprises have elected to use an overall HSM solution for IT, and they want their OpenEdge deployment also using it. So what we have put in is an integration ability for using an industry standard API to integrate with an HSM. Secondly, PASOE now supports replacing the JSON Web Signature, JWS tokens, with JSON Web Encryption, or JWE authentication tokens. What JWE provides is the ability to encrypt the payload in a JWT. These encrypted tokens ensure point-to-point security. Following this, we have added support for OpenID Connect, or OIDC, which is an industry standard authentication layer built on the OAuth 2 authorization protocol. It provides a unique identity token to share common user data with clients. PASOE is supporting this for remote validation of access tokens and adding identity token data to a client principal object. I would like to note here that the last two, the JWE, can be used with both OAuth 2 and the OIDC Connect. When PASOE is deployed in an OAuth 2 or OIDC environment that uses JWE to encrypt the security token, both enterprise privacy and confidentiality regulations are also supported. So moving from the new security features that we've introduced in 12.6, I want to proceed to the new product that we've introduced in 12.6, OpenEdge Advanced Security. It's an add-on product, and it's available for those that are needing to meet regulatory compliance and to improve system security with highly valued capabilities. The contents of that product in 12.6 is the two that we have just mentioned, the JSON Web Encryption and the Hardware Security Module. And we've also brought into this product Transparent Data Encryption, or TDE. The first two, JWE and HSM, this product is the only vehicle for you to obtain those features. Transparent Data Encryption has been available since 10.2b, and was also added in the Advanced Enterprise Edition product, where it will still remain in the AEE product. It will no longer be available as a standalone product for TDE only for customers that are newly moving into the security space and newly want to use encryption. Next, I have a few tidbits under the FYI heading that mostly have to do with third-party versions that are brought to a higher level in 12.6. The Java version that is now the minimum supported with OpenEdge is Java 17, which is their latest LTS. Their prior LTS was Java 11. Java 17 became available just over a year ago in September of 2021. The supported versions of Java for OpenEdge releases is laid out in the OpenEdge 12 Product Availability Guide, if you need to refer to that. Progress Developer Studio has been upgraded to use Eclipse 2022-03. Using the old nomenclature for Eclipse, that is also version 4.23. And the OpenEdge Developers Kit, OEDK, is updated with OpenEdge 12.6 when 12.6 went to GA at the end of September, but that was also updated as 12.5 is now retired. Moving to the companion releases, we will look at OpenEdge Command Center 1.2 and OpenEdge Pro2 6.4. OpenEdge Command Center, if you're not familiar with it, because it is a relatively new product. It is a cloud-ready, browser-based console for OpenEdge management and monitoring as part of the enterprise's IT service. One of the things that it does is it integrates with OpenTelemetry Metrics, which is a third-party mechanism, and it's integrated through the OECC agent, which allows customers' IT operations to use their choice of application performance monitoring solution to monitor the PAS-OE functionality and the OpenEdge database functionality. So metrics are taken from both of these, PAS-OE and OpenEdge database, and fed into OpenTelemetry, and that puts it available for harvest through various application monitoring solutions. Next, a PAS-OE instance can be cloned through an intuitive user experience, which enables application administrators to quickly create identical PAS-OE instances, which will help them improve their load balancing. This is a great time saver because these used to have to be created manually in the prior release. Also, we have provided a Windows installer for the OpenEdge Command Center server. This enables the system administrators with the necessary steps to set up OECC as a Windows service, including on high availability configurations. This helps to ensure that the service availability is there during planned or unplanned maintenance outages. Next, we will move to Pro2. If you're not familiar with Pro2, it provides live real-time replication of OpenEdge data to other targets, that being MS SQL Server, Oracle, or other OpenEdge databases. We've created an automated migration to more easily move from version 5 to version 6 of Pro2 in order to simplify the upgrade path to the Pro2 6 release. This will help customers successfully migrate to Pro2 with minimal manual intervention. We have enhanced reporting to create better queue and thread reports so you can see things like tables by thread or age of a thread. This will help the Pro2 administrator better manage the Pro2 replication environment. And then finally, in 6.4, we have optimized the bulk load ability by using OpenEdge database analysis utility to identify tables with by record count size, and so they can be included or excluded with the individual bulk loads. What this does is it lets you manage the scope of your bulk load activity and enable you to move data over there at opportunities that suit your usage without impacting your environment. Let's move to how you can help us help you. Perhaps you didn't see a feature you've been looking for in what I just went over in 12.6, or you have a solution that you think would be really helpful, but you'd like to get some more consensus for people that are looking for it. What we have is our ideas forum. It's a community. It's available to everyone, both for submitting ideas and voting on ideas. These ideas are reviewed and prioritized by the product management team on a regular basis with the development team. And as ideas are defined to the point that we can assess them for putting into the product, they will be promoted to features in our internal feature management database. What you can see here on this dashboard is not only the web address for being able to do it, but it's part of your dashboard where you can see what's trending, you can see the number of votes on something. You also have the ability to comment and vote. And if you have submitted an idea or you would subscribe to it, you'll get automatic email notifications as the status changes. To show you how this really is truly used by development and product management for the features, I've borrowed a couple of slides from a previous roadmap presentation. The focus of this slide and the following one is to show all the features that have been put in since OpenEdge 12.2. And what you'll notice is that some of these have blue shading. So what the blue shading identifies is which features can be related to ideas in that ideas community. And you'll see there's quite a few over 3 releases. And what you may not have noticed is that these roadmap slides were in a presentation prior to 12.6 being released. So the releases stop here at 12.5. So what I have here is the list of functionality added in 12.6 that are related to entries in the ideas community. There are 9 of them here. So we do take this very seriously and use it to be responsive to customer needs. Another mechanism that we have for you to participate is the Customer Validation Program for OpenEdge, or the CVP. This is a private community, and you have to request to be subscribed to it. We are looking for people that are in our customer base, so we ask that when you make a request to participate, perhaps you use your employer email address instead of your personal, and we like to see what customer it is that you're representing and on working with OpenEdge on. You can actively influence the developer experience for future enhancements in OpenEdge, and it gives you access to a lot of things that we're doing as development is proceeding. We have surveys that give you the ability to have feedback into the roadmap, usability reviews. We have pre-releases of software. Generally, with each of our innovation releases, we'll have at least 2 early software access drops. We occasionally hold a virtual open house, which can be targeted to do a deep dive on a specific feature. Many of our Scrum teams will post their quarterly objectives, the OKRs that I mentioned earlier, on what they're trying to put into in the next program increment for functionality. And some of the teams will invite customers to their sprint reviews. Our sprints are 2 weeks long, so there's sprint reviews every 2 weeks, and we have demos of functionality that has recently been checked in. This is the website address for you to be able to get to that and request membership. Finally, I want to leave you with a couple of references for what we've been over. First is another slide that I also took from that roadmap presentation earlier. This is showing us major features that have gone into each subsequent release, starting with 12.0. You can notice that the 12.2 release is the long-term support release by that green circle. All of the subsequent ones are innovation releases. These do not by any means, these columns do not show all of the features. There just isn't enough space for that. And then this is my documentation links page. The first bullet is basically the top level for OpenEdge 12.6, which will get you to all of the other bullets. I have the What's New document here. Now you may be sitting here going, I think I'm listening to a What's New webinar. Why should I go look at that What's New document? Well, I'll tell you, that document has a lot more detail in it than what I've been able to present here. And as you do encounter features that you want to know more about, it has links embedded in it that will go right into the documentation that supports that feature. So it's really handy for you to get in depth quickly and start to see what it is that you're interested more in. We also have the OpenEdge 12 product availability guide that was updated when we went to GA with 12.6. And in case you need a reference back to the earlier release model that I was covering, we have the lifecycle policy guides for support durations for the various types of releases. And that's what I have for the presentation today. Thank you so much for giving me some of your time so that I can tell you about the features we brought to you in our latest innovation release, OpenEdge 12.6. I'll now hand it off for Q&A.
Great. Thanks, Marie. Thanks for the great presentation. I appreciate all the details that you shared, exciting ones, especially around the security. That was pretty good to hear.
You're absolutely welcome, Kay.
Very good. So let's go for questions. I can see a couple But if anybody has any questions, please put into the questions box that you see on your screen, or you can go into chat and then type some of your questions. In the meantime, I will just give you the first one. Is OpenEdge Advanced Security available in the long-term supported releases, including 12.2 or 11.7?
You know, that's a question we get asked frequently, and it's very gratifying to know that people are eager for some of the newer features back in one of the long-term supported releases. Unfortunately, the short answer on this one is no, it's not. The background behind that is that this is a new product that was introduced in 12.6, and not only is it a new product, but 2 of the 3 features in it were new features introduced in 12.6, HSM and JWE. And the challenge is, with an active code base, is that even though these features were implemented in 12.6, they may have built upon something that was done in earlier releases after 12.2. So they may build on 12.3 or 12.4. And so it's not as simple as just taking a piece of code and sticking it back on the older release and everything will magically work. And so that's a lot of the reason behind our release model that says that we will not bring features back to the previous long-term support releases. Now, the good news is, of course, that in our next long-term support release, it will be there.
Sounds good. Thank you. Let's see. I have another question here. How can I get OpenEdge 12.6 to try out and to start the upgrade process?
Well, it's our typical standard process that if you're ready to do your upgrading, most people are aware, you place an order with Progress to upgrade your licenses, assuming you have a maintenance contract. You upgrade them at no cost. If you're not in a position where you're ready to commit to upgrading, but you want to say, kick the tires, test it out, play with it for a bit, we do have an evaluation license available where you can get access to the software and start playing with it. Okay.
Thanks. Sorry, I have a little bit of a background. There's like a plane flying around, so apologies for the background. Great, thank you. I have one more question, actually. If anybody is in this, probably be the last, if no one has another question. If someone is preparing to move to OpenEdge 12, should they go to the LTS or to an innovation release?
That's also a very good question, and there is no one-size-fits-all on this question. It really depends on your organization, how quickly you want to adopt, how quickly you're able to adopt going to an innovation release, and what your support needs are. Revisiting the release model, with each of the innovation releases, 12.3, 4, 5, and 6, when the new one comes out, the previous one is considered out of support. Now, that doesn't mean that you don't get help. It's in a retired lifecycle phase, regardless of what you're coming from as an innovation release or an LTS release. And it doesn't mean that support ends so much as because Progress has a lifetime support policy. But it is a signal to you that when we hit the retired phase, to begin planning, if you haven't started already, for moving to the next version. So when we hit the retired lifecycle phase, support is limited, particularly with enhancements and ultimately bug fixes as well. If you are beyond the retired point with an innovation release, it's very unlikely that you're going to get bug fixes to what you find in that innovation version. You'll have to move to the next one where the bug is fixed. Just wanted to point out that when we hit the retirement date, that software doesn't stop working on you. You don't have to immediately move to the next version, but you should start planning for that move.
Thanks, Marie. So I think that's pretty much it from what I have. I don't see any more questions. If anybody has anything, last call, and I'll close it up. I do have one question actually. Is there an OpenEdge training available?
Yes, we have a significant amount of training in the various pieces of functionality of OpenEdge, which gives us an extensive library of online and instructor-led training. If you go to progress.com, look under the services link, you can find a long list of courses that are available. There are two things that I wanted to point out about them. All of the courses have been updated to OpenEdge 12 because we like to stay current in our training materials. And then secondly, fairly recently, we've made a number of the offerings available at no cost. A lot of these no-cost ones are introductory or getting started kinds of things. But certainly if you want to get some basic information, that would be a good place to start. So I encourage you to go look, to go see our on-demand training and instructor-led training, again on progress.com under the support and services link for OpenEdge.
Excellent. Thanks, Marie. So yeah, with that, I think we're done. As no questions came through, I just wanted to remind you about the ideas page that Marie mentioned about the customer validation program, which is a great way for you to also provide input and participate in the development and improvement of the products. And then what's new document that she mentioned, there's a lot more details that you can go and check out. And we're going to be sending the links after the webinar on an email, so watch out for that. But with that, thank you very much and have a great rest of the day. Thanks, Marie.
Thank you, everyone, for attending.